William allegedly rejects joint event after Charles promises more time with Meghan's children. And if you think this is just another quiet royal disagreement, think again, because what just unfolded behind palace walls is being whispered as a full-blown power struggle that could quietly reshape the future of the monarchy itself.
Prince Harry. Let's give him a round of applause. At last, he has taken his children to see their granddad.
Does this put us in a situation where there is a constitutional crisis?
This has been an extraordinarily disastrous week.
Because for years we heard that the obstacle that was standing between Harry, Meghan, and these children was the UK thing around security. It just wasn't going to be safe. What changed?
There isn't a laundry in the cosmos big enough to wash all the dirty linen he has aired about his own family. For him to complain about his privacy being invaded takes not just the biscuit, but the whole tin.
Prince William did not go to Highgrove, and that absence is louder than anything Prince William could have said out loud. Because while Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, Archie, and Lilibet walked through the private doors opened by King Charles, Prince William stayed deliberately, visibly somewhere else, drawing a line that insiders are now claiming is no longer about family tension, but about control, authority, and what kind of monarchy survives the next decade. This was not just a reunion, and anyone calling it that is either missing the point or avoiding it. Because King Charles did not simply meet Prince Harry's children, King Charles reportedly promised more time, more access, more private moments that had been completely frozen out for years. And that promise, according to people watching this unfold from inside the palace system, is exactly what triggered Prince William's latest reaction. A reaction that insiders are now describing as a refusal to participate in any joint royal appearance that even indirectly signals reconciliation on terms Prince William did not approve.
To assess it calmly. And this is going to be my views. I'm not saying that anyone else is right or wrong, but this is personally how I feel about this entire situation. King Charles is a grandfather who, despite everything that's happened, knows that his grandchildren are completely innocent in all of their parents' actions, and he wants to meet them. I've met a few people in my lifetime that have had to put up with certain people that have married into their family, for example, or even a family member, because they want to see the rest of the family if there's children involved. I've seen this happen where grandparents have to put up with a daughter or son's spouse because they know that if they say anything, they will not get to see their grandchildren. I believe that King Charles is 77 years old, that he has cancer, and it seems that it's not the curable kind, and he was the one that finally facilitated having this meet-up with them. Now, are Harry and Meghan doing it for good reasons, for pure of heart reasons? Highly unlikely. Are Harry and Meghan finally putting their children first and putting the king's feelings first? Again, highly unlikely. Do I think that Harry and Meghan have suddenly had a change of heart and they've stopped all their conniving and plotting? Does a leopard change its spots? Again, highly unlikely.
No cameras, no photos, no official smiles, just 4 carefully chosen words from Buckingham Palace, a private family occasion, and yet those 4 words are now doing something far more dangerous than calming the situation. They are fueling it, because inside that quiet afternoon was a shift, a signal, a decision made by King Charles that seems to prioritize personal reconciliation over institutional discipline. And that is exactly where the fracture begins to widen. Because here is the part nobody wants to say too loudly. King Charles has been pushing for this moment, pushing hard, clearing schedules, softening positions, reportedly even offering accommodations that would have been unthinkable just months ago. And all of that effort was not just about seeing Archie and Lilibet. It was about opening a door that had been firmly shut. And Prince William has spent years making sure that door stayed closed for a reason.
From William and Catherine, and to get some insight into the work of the real royals. But what I think is so interesting is that William was playing polo when news came out that Harry, Meghan, and the children met with the king and the queen at Highgrove. So everyone is asking the same question: what changed? Because for years we heard that the obstacle that was standing between Harry, Meghan, and these children was the UK thing around security. It just wasn't going to be safe. And Harry said that he could not bring his family back without the protection that he actually felt was necessary. But now I want you to imagine this. So if Meghan and Harry and these children are able to come back, and if they're able to walk through those palace doors and then sit down privately with the king and queen, because at first I heard that the queen was not going to see Harry, but now we're hearing that the queen was there as well. And many people are actually going to ask, was security really the only thing that was keeping the family apart? Was that really truly the issue?
Now the whispers coming out are sharp, almost unfiltered, describing Prince William as deeply frustrated, unable to hide resentment, watching what one insider called a worst-case scenario play out in real time. Because from Prince William's perspective, this is not about denying King Charles a moment with grandchildren. This is about what happens next, what follows once that door is opened, once meetings become regular, once private becomes routine, and once boundaries begin to blur in a way that cannot be reversed. And suddenly, one quiet afternoon at Highgrove starts to look less like healing and more like the beginning of a negotiation that Prince William never agreed to be part of.
Or was there something much deeper that was happening? And this is where King Charles finds himself in an almost impossible position. He really does. But I have a counter to that. But here is the situation, because there is Charles. He is a father, okay? But he is also the king. He is also the king. And the father side of all of this looks at Harry, his son, and he's like, okay, I need to see my son. He's thinking, okay, I've done some things, and Harry has given his dad a hard time about a lot of things around the marriage of Diana and Charles. And so there is this guilt that Charles, I think, feels with Harry, that he tries to, I think, play into Harry's woes, okay? And now we have Harry with his children, and then there is this desire for, I think, the king to want to feed into this relationship to help repair it, because Harry, I believe, has put a big guilt trip on his father. But then you have the public who are looking at this and saying, well, we remember all of the interviews. We remember all of the accusations. I wrote a song, do you remember? Okay? We remember the books because I want people to remember, right? They're the documentaries, the Oprah interview. We can't forget that also Meghan accused the king and Catherine of being the royal racist. And we saw how sneaky they said it vicariously through that book Endgame with the Omid guy, okay, the Scooby-Doo guy, okay? So you ain't slick, Meghan. So we know that the king has been pushed under a bus, and it's been by Meghan. But what is also interesting is that Meghan, they are saying she's the one that leaked the meeting of the king with Harry and Meghan and the children.
Let's be honest about what actually happened, because beneath the careful language, this was the first real in-person connection in years. A grandfather seeing Archie and Lilibet after an entire chapter of their lives passed without him. And that emotional reality is powerful, almost impossible to criticize on a human level. But the monarchy does not operate only on human emotion. It operates on perception, structure, and long-term consequences, and that is exactly where this moment becomes explosive. Because timing in this family is never accidental. And Prince Harry did not arrive just for a reunion. Prince Harry arrived during a week already loaded with public attention, legal battles, and shifting narratives, and when Meghan Markle and the children suddenly appeared. The question stopped being whether this was a reunion and started becoming why now? Why this week? Why this moment? And who benefits most from the timing?
So a lot of people are really asking, where is the accountability before the reunion? We know that Harry wanted an apology before coming back. Like, there's all these things that they said. His security. So we can see that things have been pushed to the side so that there can be a reunion. But then I ask this question. What about Thomas Markle Sr.? You're so quick to reunite with the king, who you called a racist, Meghan Markle, but you won't even go see your own father, considering what has happened to him and his leg being amputated. So we know there's an underlying reason why Meghan has agreed to do this. I know that Harry is doing this because it's very emotional for him to have his father see the children. But there is a big overarching problem that they will never be able to resolve, and I'm going to tell you that here in a second. But this is the difficult part with King Charles, because forgiveness is personal, and a father, he can forgive his son overnight rather quickly. This institution should have never given the leeway to Meghan. I think Meghan should have had to have apologized before the king met with her. He can meet with the kids, but that woman should have stayed her butt on the outside, considering what she has done. But we don't know. Maybe she did apologize privately. Okay, but the fact is the monarchy can only survive because of the relationship that it has with its people. This is between the crown and the people. And a lot of people within the public feel, hold up, wait a minute. We defended the monarchy through all of this. And now everyone just walks right back in the front door like nothing ever happened.
And somewhere in all of this, Prince William is watching, calculating, and according to insiders, making a decision that is far more strategic than emotional. Because refusing a joint event is not just a personal reaction, it is a message. A signal that Prince William is not willing to validate a reconciliation that bypasses the accountability, the structure, and the control Prince William believes the institution requires to survive what comes next. And this is where the story stops being about one afternoon and starts becoming something much bigger, because once that private reunion ended, once the doors of Highgrove closed and the carefully managed silence settled over Buckingham Palace again, the real consequences began to unfold in ways nobody involved could publicly control. And that is exactly when the deeper questions started surfacing, the ones that cut straight through the emotional narrative and land squarely on power, perception, and the future shape of the monarchy.
William is not just thinking about his brother, he is preparing for the future of the monarchy. And I think it was intentional that William would not be around when Harry and Meghan came. He's off playing polo, as we saw. And we can also see that William, he can start to rebuild on a new kind of a monarchy, understanding that things are going to change substantially when the king passes. So how do you rebuild trust without first addressing why everything is broken? How does that even happen? And I think the biggest question is not whether Charles loves Harry. Of course, the father is going to love his son despite him acting like a wackadoodle. But the bigger question really is, can the king repair his family despite what they did to him? And also request that Meghan also repairs things with her father. So the bigger question becomes, can the king repair his family without making the public feel like the loyalty that they have has been forgotten, or that the loyalty that the king has for the public has been forgotten? Because Harry may want reconciliation, and I believe that Charles really does want peace. There's a lot going on, but the public may still be waiting for one thing. And that accountability does not extend just to the royal family. It extends to the things that Meghan has done to the public, the UK public, that she called racist. She called her wedding a spectacle. She's done things to the public. Like, when you look at accountability, like, where's the accountability for Meghan and what she has done with the birth of Archie? She didn't have to be accountable for proving anything. Where's Meghan's accountability to the public, the people that the king reigns over?
Because while King Charles is being viewed by some as a grandfather reclaiming lost time, others are looking at the exact same moment and asking something far more uncomfortable. Where is the accountability that was once described as essential before any reunion could even happen? Where did those conditions go, and why did they suddenly disappear the moment this meeting became possible? Because the public memory in this situation is not short, and the accusations, the interviews, the very public breakdown between Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and the institution itself have not simply faded away. They have been set aside, and that decision is exactly what is dividing opinion right down the middle. And it is not just the public asking these questions, because inside the royal framework, there is a growing awareness that every move made now carries consequences that extend far beyond a single family moment. Because if reconciliation is happening without visible accountability, then it sends a message that everything that happened before it can eventually be absorbed, managed, and quietly moved past. And that is precisely the kind of precedent that makes Prince William's reaction not only understandable, but, in the eyes of some, inevitable. Because Prince William is not reacting as a brother anymore, Prince William is reacting as the future of the institution. And that difference matters more than anything else in this situation, because what looks like coldness on the surface is being described by insiders as a calculated stance rooted in long-term strategy, a refusal to allow emotional decisions made in the present to reshape the structure that Prince William will one day be responsible for maintaining. And that is a level of pressure that turns every personal choice into a public statement whether Prince William wants it to or not. And then there is the detail that almost slips past unnoticed but changes everything once you really think about it: the fact that Prince Harry chose to stay near Althorp, placing Archie and Lilibet within reach of Princess Diana's resting place, and that choice is layered with meaning in a way that makes this entire situation even more complicated, because it blends personal grief, legacy, and symbolism into a moment that already carries enough weight to split opinion across the country. And when you combine that with the timing, the legal pressures, the public narrative shifting around Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, it becomes impossible to ignore the possibility that this reunion was not just emotional, it was also strategic. And strategy is exactly what makes this so difficult to resolve, because while King Charles may be seeking peace, while King Charles may genuinely be trying to repair something that has been broken for years, that does not automatically align with what Prince William believes needs to happen next, because repairing a relationship and protecting an institution are not always the same thing. And in this case, they may be pulling in completely opposite directions. So when insiders say that Prince William is refusing joint events, that Prince William is stepping back from anything that could be seen as endorsing the shift, it is not just a reaction to one meeting, it is a response to what that meeting represents. A turning point where the lines that once seemed firm are suddenly being redrawn in real time, and once those lines move, they are very difficult to move back. And that leaves this entire situation hanging in a place that feels unresolved, because on one side there is King Charles choosing connection, choosing family, choosing a path that may lead to some form of reconciliation no matter how complicated it becomes, and on the other side there is Prince William holding position, holding structure, holding a vision of the monarchy that does not bend easily under pressure. And between those two positions is a gap that is not closing anytime soon, because the real question now is not whether this reunion happened, not whether it will happen again, but whether the monarchy can absorb both of these approaches at the same time without something eventually giving way. And if it cannot, then the next development in this story will not be quiet, it will not be private, and it will not be something that can be explained away in 4 carefully chosen words, because the moment those two directions finally collide in public, everything changes, and the fallout from that moment is going to be impossible to contain.